What's going on, my fellow trolls? It's your boy Trolltech here for another video. If you're watching this on Patreon, thank you for being a patron. This will come out a week later on YouTube, as always. So today we are watching episode 3 of Two Kids Room, Lino and Iron. And I was specifically excited for these next two episodes that we're going to do. So today we're doing Lino and Iron, and then the next Two Kids Room is Chan and Han, which I'm really excited about because I wanted a Chan Two Kids Room. So we're getting that soon. But this one I was excited about because in the Lino compilation reaction thing I did on YouTube, their dynamic seemed very interesting to me. So I'm eager to learn more about like how their dynamic is. So I'm actually really keen to get into this one because they have like an interesting dynamic based on what I've seen so far. So I'm excited to get into this. So without further ado, let's get into episode 3 of Two Kids Room, Lino and IN. Okay, let's get into it.
그래, 네가 나한테 관심이 없으니까 섭섭한 것도 없는 거야. 너 진짜 그럼 안 된다?
관심이 없다니 내가 얼마나 관심 많은데.
그래? 내 생각 언제야?
10월 23일 장난이고 10월 25일
틀렸어. 23일이야.
25일이야 투키즈룸 리노 아이
안녕 얘.
소금빵
Why'd he run in like that, please?
포식
Is that a croissant?
맛있어?
이거 소금 뿌려진
No, it's bread. I was going to say croissant can't be that crunchy.
짭짤 맛있다.
맛있네.
I really like Lino's hair color here.
그러니까 이거 만두
건배. 어?
이거 만두
빵 사와 소금 뿌려줄게.
Though, I don't know why this entered my head. I like the hair color, don't get me wrong, but he looks like an LED light as well. Like, especially with the clothes he's wearing. You know what I mean? You know that purple, like, LED light color? That he's got, that's what he looks like. His whole body, because of the clothes and the hair. It's just funny. Still looks good, but...
어? 좋지?
그거는 나 쓰는 건데.
그럼 내 거 니네가 쓰는 거야.
I mean, it's like, you scab all my shit, of course you use it.
너무 편하게 돼 있잖아.
Jongbin struggling for insights.
둘은 무슨 조합인지 전혀 모르겠네요.
뭔가 약간 생각인데?
I love that Jongbin's like, what do they do, these guys? Like, I don't know anything about their relationship. Like, what's happening?
같이 숙소에서 살아도 무슨 약간 얘기를 하는지 모르겠어요.
I love how lost they are.
빡빡빡. 맞아. 빡빡빡. 눈, 코, 입 거의 빡빡빡이지. 눈을 꾹, 코, 꾹, 입 꾹, 탁탁 해가지고 맞추는 약간 3D 들어가서.
I love this trio, like these out of the younger lineup, because like Felix, I think, is generally also a bit chaotic, but these three are gremlins. You know what I mean? They're like chaotic chaos gremlins, these three, and the three of them together is just always like comedic genius based on what I've seen of them so far. And I love it because they're all three of them like try to do everything they possibly can to get a rise out of like the older ones. Like, you know, in the clip you see like Hyunjin calling Lino when he's playing a game, or you know, Sungmin just making like calling Chan old, and then Han just doing it, you know, just being Han, like just trying to irritate as much people as possible. Like, they're just, all three of them are chaos gremlins.
처럼 생겼죠, 둘 다. 입체적이지.
눈 두 개, 콧구멍 두 개, 입 하나.
없으면 안 되는 거 아니야?
그런 말 하면 안 돼.
생각은 너무 다른 거.
What did this man just bite his bread out? Okay, so let's go back. Let's go back to the frame. So he's bitten the bread on one side, right? And now he's biting again from the other. I don't like that. Bite from the side you've already bitten. Please, Lino. Why is he so chaotic? Please. That actually gives me anxiety. The fact that he's done this gives me so much anxiety.
생각은 너무 다른 거 같아. 그러니까 그거는 비슷해. 뭐 규칙적인 생활하거나 뭐 아침 일찍 일어나는 거?
뭔가 둘 다 대충 사는 거
He's so random, this guy. I love it.
대충 사는 거 같지만 열심히 사는 거 같아.
나 대충 살지 않아. 맞아, 생활 패턴이 별로 비슷했는데 지금 안 비슷해져가지고. 원래 패턴 같으면 일찍 자고 아침에 일어나서 운동하고 스케줄 가고. 지금은 그냥 진짜 미쳤네. 늦게 자고 일찍
Iron's
일어나서
doing it as well.
그러다가
Please, can you guys eat your bread normally? Eat it normally, please. Don't bite both sides. Like it's so. I don't know why it makes me get me so much anxiety. I just don't like it. Please eat your bread normally.
스케줄 갔다가 또 늦게 잤다가
난 그렇게 못 살. 자연스럽게 포기한 거야.
My man said, "Have you given up on a natural death, please, Iron?"
같이 갈래? 내가 만약에 꿈에서 따라오라 그러면 따라가야 돼?
아 가는
I love how morbid these two are together.
아 같이 가.
아 내가 먼저 갈 수도 있잖아.
내가 뭐야 황천길.
Like their jokes are so dark. It's hilarious.
무슨 강이야 그거?
아 내가 먼저 갈게.
아 너가 먼저 갈 거야?
내가 길을 닦아놓을게.
오케이.
아이고 형님 어서 오십시오.
My man said, "I'll prepare the the afterlife." I don't know why I said underworld. Maybe it's like, it's the world's telling us something. These two are gonna go to the underworld? Gonna be dark lords of the underworld. Nah, in the afterlife, Iron's just paving the way. That's their jokes are so dark. Like it's a breath of fresh air. Like, because generally I feel like Stray Kids, they have a similar humor, but then you've got these two demons just with the darkest humor. I like it. I like the difference.
세.
어,
뭔가 좀 둘 다 세.
고집도 세고 그리고 자기 의견은 똑바로 말해. 그건 진짜 있는 것 같아 둘 다.
아기자기한 거 별로 안 좋아하고.
맞아. 귀여운 거 별로 안 좋아하고.
데뷔 초 때는 내가 귀여워 보이기 싫었어. 그래서 막 어른스러워 보이려고 막 이상한 표정 짓고 막 그랬었는데.
Especially maybe because he's like the youngest, he feel like there's almost not a chip on his shoulder, but almost like you have something to prove outside of that, being the youngest. I get it. Cause like I get it as like a younger sibling. Like I'm the youngest out of 3. And out of like all my like cousins, and I've got many cousins. So growing up, and when I was growing up, it wasn't like our families weren't like it wasn't like external things, right? We basically, growing up, it was like 25 of us always at each other's houses. So it was more like it felt like I grew up with more than just 2 siblings. And I was the youngest as well. So you definitely get almost a chip on your shoulder or something to prove when you are the youngest. I think I agree with that.
되게 어리긴 하다 그렇게 생각하는 게. 지금 약간 마인드는 뭔지 알아? 귀여울 수 있을 때 귀엽자, 귀여워 보이자. 이런 데서 나이를 얘기하고 싶지 않지만 지금 22살인데 아직까지 귀여움을 받고 있다는 것마저도 나는 복 받은 거라고 생각해.
Okay, this makes me laugh. I'll tell you why it makes me laugh, because I remember this. So guys in their early 20s, or just generally people in their early 20s, they feel like they're so old, right? They feel like, oh, I'm aged and I'm an adult now, but in reality, a 22-year-old is still a baby to me. Now, especially as I'm getting older, a 22-year-old is so young. Like, for example, when I was 22, I had left high school in the last couple of years. I had no fucking idea what I was doing. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was so lost. Like, a 22-year-old is a baby. Like, the way I view it, as soon as you turn 20, you're a baby adult. You're a 0-year-old adult, right? And then as you age, you become more of an adult. Like, so a 21-year-old will be 1-year-old adult, a 22-year-old will be a 2-year-old adult, and I'm 27, so I'm like a 7-year adult, which is still a relatively young adult. You know what I mean? That's the way I view it. So yeah, 22-year-old's a baby, but I get it because I was like this as well. At 22, you feel like you're so old, you're so aged, you're an adult. I guess it might be a bit different for Ian just because, he's a mega superstar, so it kind of is not this. He doesn't have the same experience as a normal 22-year-old would. But generally, I think psychologically, it's pretty similar. I just find that interesting, is all I'm saying. Anyway.
내 나이는 계속 먹어가는데 마인드는 정신 연령은 그대로야. 뭔지
That's so true. That's so true, actually. Like, the older I get, right? I'm like 3 years off 30. But the older I get, the same my mindset and like who I am still remains as when I was 17. Like, not in the way of like maturity and the way you view the world. That matures, but I think generally who you are never really matures. So I feel like that the idea of like age, you're too old to do this thing that you did previously, I think it doesn't work. Like, I don't know if you're a gamer or you like anime or whatever it is, you'll probably still like that shit when you're 70. Because yesterday I went to my dad's, right? Like me, my brother and sister went to our dad's, you know, just to visit. And there was like two sections. There was like the sections where like my nephews and stuff were hanging out and like playing games and talking about games and stuff. And then there was the adult section at the table where they were just talking about like, you know, just boring shit like real estate and building a house and, you know, that type, you know, just boring adult stuff. And me and my brother's 34, I'm 27. We would hang out with our nephews just playing games and talking about games and stuff. And my sister came over. My sister's like 39, 40, turning 40, I think, this year or next year. I don't know, it doesn't matter. And she came over and she's like, oh, I just got bored at the adult table. And, you know, she just came over to chill with us for a bit. And she was essentially saying, and we were essentially saying, me and my brother, we were like, doesn't matter how old we get, we're still going to be those kids that talk about games and like games. Like, that's never going to change. Like, even when we're 60, 70, right? So I just find that hilarious. That's so true. Anyway, sorry. Went on a bit of a tangent.
젊게 사는 거지.
젊게 사는 거지.
아빠랑 친구 먹거든. 우리 아버지도 젊으셔. 우리 아버지도 정신 연령이 젊으셔.
트렌드 하시네. 형이 막 그런 약간 사람들 많은 자리에서 얘기할 때마다 깃빨개지면 약간 좀 귀여워. 근데 또 귀여웠어. 귀 혼자 깃빨개져가지고 어떡하지 이러고 있으면은 좀 귀엽긴 했어.
야, 가요대 제전 때 진짜 레전드였다 그때.
그때 좀 귀여웠어. 그 장성규 선배님이 어흥했잖아. 근데 형이 아이 깜짝이야.
그때 너무 긴장돼가지고. 왜냐면 뒤에 선후배님들 다 계시지. 뭐 앞에는 생방송 카운트다운 하고서 이제 호랑이띠라고 멘트 치라고 하고 있지. 옆에 장성규 선배님, 유나 선배님, 그리고 준호 형 이렇게 계시니까.
대선배님들.
그러니까 다 그 사이에 껴가지고 아이고 이러고 있는데.
내가 그 상황이었어도 되게 엄청 얼굴 빨개져 있을 것 같긴 해. 부끄러웠을 것 같아. 그렇게 많은 사람들 앞에서 어떻게 얘기해.
둘 다 좀 씩씩하고
맞아.
씩씩하면서도 안에 좀 여림이 있고.
맞아. 완전 제대로 설명한 것 같아.
스키즈는 약간 8명이 모이면 되게 깐족깐족대거든.
맞아.
알지?
겁나 시끄러워.
맞아.
근데 다 따로 흩어지잖아.
다 따로 흩어지면
진짜
너무
조용해.
I can see that. I feel like that's common, actually. Like, I've found that, you know, generally, who you are when you're with, like, your closest mates is so different to who you are alone. Like, alone, when I'm by myself, I've got a resting bitch face. I don't talk to anyone. I'm just do what I need to do and leave. Right? That's how I'm alone. But when I'm with friends, it's like, especially really close friends, I am just so social, such a conversationalist. I'm so loud. I'm the loudest person in the room. Like, I fully transform. It's so weird. Like, yeah. I agree with that. Like, that is a very common thing, I think.
낯가리고 있고.
믿었던 창빈이 형 맞아. 그나마 찬이 형이 그래도 금방 친해지긴 하는데 역시 큰형님은 달라.
그럼.
I also think Chan being able to be get closer to someone is like, it is a personality trait, but I think it's also him, the fact that he grew up in a certain, like the way, the values and stuff he grew up with, like as an Australian, it's easier to kind of be more social and like friendly with people, because generally I've found this, like in countries like Japan and Korea, I haven't been to Korea, but I've been to Japan, and relatively I would say the attitudes of like the politeness and kind of the almost introvertedness of those cultures, I think, is a thing. So maybe that's why it's easier for someone like Chan to be more friendly and get close with people quickly, because he doesn't really have that background. But then again, if that's the case, then it should be the same with Felix, but I'm not sure how Felix is in those scenarios. Generally, it looks like Felix, when he's not talking with stray kids, he actually, maybe not, because in the Eric Nam interview, he was very comfortable and stuff, but maybe they knew each other before. I don't know. But generally, I think that might be why. Sorry.
이게 바로 맏형의 무게라는 건가?
리누 형이 그게 있다. 리누 형이 또 이해가 막내잖아요. 은근 친데레스럽게 이해를 좀 챙기려고 하는 그런 게 좀 있는 것 같아.
맞아. 나 리노 형이 아이엔을
Yeah, that's what I saw in that compilation as well.
리노 형을 괴롭히는 것도 본 적이 없어. 서로를 너무 잘 알아서 싸운 적도 없고
잘 피해가.
잘 피해가는 것 같아.
서로의 신경을 안 거슬리게.
그러니까 내가 봤을 때 거야. 리노 형이 예민하면 일단 이엔이 도망가 있어.
맞아.
나는 거기서 깐죽거리고.
Whenever Lino's pissed off, Iron's just like, okay, I'm leaving, bro. I'm out of here. I'm not gonna be in this room right now.
그러니까 뭐랄까 막내지만 약간 막내답지 않고 이제 그런 의지 같은 거 있잖아. 만약에 안무 연습을 한다 하면은 이제 안 되는 부분 쉬는 시간에 혼자 연습하고 있고 나는 쉬는 시간은 무조건 쉬는 시간이야. 쉬어야 돼.
맞아, 쉬긴 해야지.
쉬는 시간에도 그렇게 하는 열정 되게 보기 좋아. 하지만 난 쉴 거야.
It's like it's nice that it's nice that you're doing the work, but I'm gonna have a coffee break.
맞아.
다시 덮였어.
복근이란 게 원래 그런 거야.
복근이라는 건 있다가도 없고.
Nah, it'd actually be like that. Like, nah, that's so true. Like, you will achieve something in the gym, whether it's abs or whatever, and then 5 seconds later, you're like, oh, it's gone now. Okay, that was a nice 3-4 days where my arms were massive or my back was peaking, you know, but like, that's so true. Like, oh my God.
있다가도 있는 거예요, 여러분.
난 진짜 없는데 자꾸 있다고 막 그러니까.
와, 내가 그걸 어떻게 만들었는지.
He's probably so skinny that like
되면은 먹고 싶은 게 그렇게
he has abs as a result.
약간 사람 마인드를 조종하는 거지.
Because all abs is a lack of fat over those muscles that are already there. That's all abs is. So if you're skinny enough, you will have abs. Like it's not really like if you want really like big fucking abs, then yeah, you would work out and do weights on your core and stuff. But generally, if you just lose weight, get that excess like fat from over your stomach, you're gonna have abs regardless. So yeah.
이러면서
맞아.
진짜 내 복근의 마지막 날을 만들어 버리고.
새해 때 그렇게 다시 한번 운동을 결심해 놓고 먹을 것만 이렇게 찾고 있어.
연말을 딱 잘 보내. 연말 리노 싹 해. 그 다음에 다시 1월 때부터 제철 리노가 되기 시작하지.
근데 그건 나도 그래.
1월부터 6월까지가 약간 통통하게 살 잘 올랐을 시기고 이제 슬슬 또 이제
예.
빼야지. 이게 사람이 조금씩 살이 쪄서 이렇게 되다 보니까 못 느껴 처음에는. 지금은 눈이 2개인데 그렇게 보면 막 눈이 하나가 돼 있고 코는 2개가 돼 있고 막.
약간 나는 그게 반복이야. 야, 저 전에 사진들 보면서 야 이때는 잘생겼다. 지금 딱 사진 찍고 다시 보면 살이 좀 쪘네. 살 좀 빼야겠다. 이러고 살을 빼. 막 주변에서 너 살 진짜 많이 빼줬다. 진짜 너무 잘생겼다. 이러면 아 그래요? 이러면서 막 되게 좋아가지고 또 먹어.
빼도 돼. 그러니까 너가 맨날 다이어트 한다고 막 살 뺀다고 막 저녁 안 먹고 그러잖아. 그때 당시에는 진짜 너가 아예 여기가 들어갔었어. 아예
맞아.
홀쭉했었어.
내가 소리꾼 때 진짜 많이 뺐지.
근데 굳이 뺄 필요가 없는데 빼길래 나는 말렸지.
뭔가 예민해 있을 때 이엔이나 리누 형 둘 다 뭔가 조용히 그냥 와가지고.
맞아.
이엔이는 그냥 어깨에 손을 탁 올린다거나. 난 이 정도. 리누 형은 와가지고 조금 더 원래 말 잘 안 걸거든요, 그 형이. 근데 그런데 은근슬쩍 막 말 걸려고 하고 막 이런 잘 달래주는 그런 게 좀 있는 것 같아.
이 표현 나 이게 되게 좋은 것 같아.
이엔이도 그렇고 리누 형도 그렇고 둘 다 되게 무뚝뚝한 사람이라서 물론 우리 멤버들
Yeah, I get that vibe.
다감한 사람이 찬이 형이랑 용복이 빼고는 다 무뚝뚝해요, 제가 볼 때는.
Okay, so that's what I was just talking about. That's literally what I was talking about. So Chungbin's like, generally we're quite reserved, not as expressive as you two, because that's where it comes from again. Like Australian, raised, they're more in tune with like being open and feeling their emotions and showing their emotions and stuff like that, because like I said, it's how you grow up. It's the culture, right? Like if I was to use an example, like I grew up in Australia. I've got cousins that grew up in Turkey. And generally, especially where my family's from, generally, when something bad happens, right, they get very like angry about it and they just won't let it go at all, because that's like just how they are in Turkey, right? Turks, they don't let things go ever. Like if something bad happens, they're gonna be talking about that shit for 2 years after that. Me, on the other hand, if something bad happens, I'm just like, okay, that happened. Let's not think about that ever again. Like I remember something happened in the family. It was a drama thing, and it happened, and then 2 days later, I was in the kitchen and I was making something, and like my mom came in and she was stressed about something, and I was like, "Well, what are you so stressed about?" And then she like brought up that incident, whatever it was, and I was like, "Oh fuck, that was ages ago. Like, why do you still think about that?" But in reality, it was only like 48 hours ago. Like that's how I am. So, I think it's very true that like where you're raised, the culture really changes how you are as a person.
아니, 내가 봤을 때
아니야,
상황마다 다른 것 같아. 그 날이랑 그 무드.
그러긴 한데 대체적으로 봤을 때 그 좋아하는 사람한테 표현하는 그 무뚝뚝함이 대체적으로 갖춰져 있는 것 같아요. 그러니까 둘은 좋아하는 사람한테 표현을 좀 많이 잘하는 편이고 나머지 우리 멤버들 뭔가 살짝 나도 그렇고 되게 무뚝뚝함이 있어요. 그 표현을 잘 안 해서 그래서 난 이 컨텐츠가 좀 재밌는 게 은근 그런 걸 좀 끄집어내는 게 있어요. 그래서 좀 낯간지럽기도 하면서도 요즘 제 생각은 그 표현에 있어서 그게 되게 중요하다고 생각하는데
That's what he was talking about in the last episode. Yeah.
그래서 전 그 둘도 무뚝뚝하다 보니까 여기서 어떤 얘기를 할지가 난 너무 궁금해요.
I feel like Ian and
벤사
I feel like Ian and Lino are the most reserved in the way, not like how they thing are, but like how they express, like they don't express themselves, right? Like when I say reserved, I don't mean they don't talk a lot or anything, but they don't get deep or they don't get serious a lot. Like is what I've noticed. Like it's if Lino's being loud and stuff, he's joking around and he's trolling and whatever else it is. And Ian really, I haven't seen. Honestly, personality-wise, outside of like people just assaulting Ian with their affection, I haven't seen too much of his personality. So I can't comment on how he is, but Lino generally seems like he's loud, but not expressive, if that makes sense. That's the vibe I get.
그게 간 게 처음이야?
아닌데? 처음일걸? 왜냐면 나 부산을 되게 가보고 싶긴 했어. 친구들도 부산 따로 놀러 가는 애들도 있고 내 친구도 창원 사람이어가지고 부산이랑 되게 가깝다 그러길래 그래 나도 경상도 한번 놀러 가보고 싶다 이렇게 했었는데 행사 때 한번 가보고 광안리 그리고 국밥 먹었지?
사실 그거면 되긴
그거면
했어.
끝이래.
거기 이제 회까지 먹으면 완벽한.
회도 먹었어.
언제 먹었어? 맞네.
너희
회도
부모님께서
먹었구나.
사주셨어.
다 했네 뭐.
응,
그
다 했어.
정도면은
부산 가서 다 했다 아이가.
근데 부산에서 할 거 다 했네. 김포라? 김포는 거의 촬영 때문에 간 거밖에 없네. 기억이.
디구 옛날에 거기가 우리 바로 옆이 할머니 댁이야.
District 9.
김포였구나. 그때 김포는 별로 상상하고 싶진 않다.
근데 김포가 되게 좋은 게 땅이 넓잖아. 김포
맞아.
평야 막 이러거든. 카페들도 엄청 큰 것들이 따로따로 이렇게 있어가지고 이제 데이트하기.
That's curious. Like, I'm curious what he meant by that. Ian said, I don't want to think about that time when they shot District 9. So that's interesting. Did like some drama happen or something during that time, I wonder? Not that I like it. I'm just interested because like objectively, you know, the way he said that, he was like, that was not a good time. Like that's the vibe I was getting, but it's interesting.
나랑 갈까? 지금 데이트 신청하는 거야.
그런 거야? 한이 형을 버리는 거야? 한이 형을 버리는 거야? 왜 떠는다고 왜 떠는 건데?
하니? 김포 재밌어. 나중에 한번 와봐.
So I've heard a lot of people tell me that like there's this theme of Han and Lino always flirting and stuff, and it's like there's like a ship for them, and it's like famous. So I think that's what he was talking about. He's like, you cheating on Han. That's hilarious.
뭐 치킨 있고 피자 있고 족발 있어. 됐지?
맞네.
부산 좀 소개시켜줘봐.
근데 내가 사실 부산을 살잖아.
응.
해운대 막 가고 싶다고 막 가라는데 사실상
The only thing I know about Busan is Train to Busan movie. That's literally the only thing I know about it.
안 가긴.
어차피 똑같은 물에다가
맞아.
그
다
모래.
That's a good movie though.
집 밖에 이렇게 창문 보면 바다 보이고.
보여? 그럼 안 갈만하지. 보여.
우리 집 데리고 가야겠네.
약간 포뇨 느낌이네.
맞아. 진짜 그 느낌이야.
Oh, Ponyo.
우리 집 데리고 가야겠네.
그거.
Wait, I'm not sure if he's talking about the Ponyo I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the Ponyo, the Studio Ghibli film, which is one of my favorite fucking movies ever. But yeah.
보면은 막 다리에 막 불빛들이 쫙
그러니까 둘이 V앱을 아리랑을 했었잖아요.
그렇죠.
아리랑을 했었는데 되게 의외라는 생각이 많이 들었던 것 같아요. 이 둘이 앉아서 무슨 얘기를 할까?
근데 아리랑 망하지 않았어?
아 망한 거야?
아니 나는 그때 2화까지 하고 폐지한다 그래가지고.
원래 프로그램이란 거는
그러니까 있다가도 없고 없다가도 있는 거야.
맞아 다시 살릴 수 있고.
그래 투키주름도
Wait,
2년
one
동안 없다가
sec.
지금 다시 나왔.
I'm kind of out of frame a bit. Wait. One sec. So I'm trying to get centered into the frame. Okay, there we go. That's better.
맞아 그런 거지. 아리랑도 언제 나올지 모르지만 다시 한번 나올 수 있는 그런 콘텐츠와 비슷한 거지.
만약에 우리 둘이 고정 컨텐츠를 만들어 만약에 하고 싶은 거 있어?
낚시.
그러니까 서로의 취향을 이제
체험해보는.
Fishing. That's so random.
쇼핑을 걷는 쇼핑을 한다고 치면 리노는 그걸 또 진짜 싫어하거든요. 걷는 쇼핑을 한번 둘이 같이 시켜보고 싶고.
싫어해.
Me, Lino and me are spirit brothers then in that way. Fucking, I hate shopping. I hate it so much. I don't think there's anything in the world I do faster than shopping. Like if I need to go shopping, I'm like, okay, you're gonna get out of this car, you're gonna run in, go to the exact stores you need to get out, get the things and fuck off out of there. Mostly I shop online anyway, so I don't usually go to shops, but I hate it. I hate it so much. And you know where it comes from? I don't think it's the actual act of shopping, but I think I got PTSD from growing up. Like you go to the shop with your mum and you're just like there for 4 hours for no reason, and you're just sitting down. And you know what's the worst? I feel like this is only for gamers growing up, but your mum comes into your room and she's like, if you go shopping with me, I'm gonna buy you a new PlayStation game, right? And mind you, this is when you're like 13, 12, 13. You don't have money to buy anything for yourself. So that's the only way you would get one video game a year, right? And you're like, okay. But then you buy your game and then you're there at the shops for another 3 hours. You're sitting on a bench and you're just looking through the fucking game and the box, and you're looking through every page on the book. You're so excited to play it, but you're there for another 3 hours. And by the time you get home that day, it's like your fucking bedtime almost. And so you can't play till tomorrow after school. Oh, that's why. That's where the PTSD comes from. I'm telling you.
거 별로 안 좋아해요. 이혜니는
Right.
싫어해.
아니 그러니까 걸어 다니는 거 별로 안 좋아해요. 이혜니는 가만히 앉아서 낚시 시키기. 못 잡을 때까지 그 괴로워하는.
So does Lino like fishing or something?
막윙 하다가 이제 손가락 하나씩 잘라먹고.
He's so dark.
아니 넌 진짜 그럴 것 같냐 왜?
그래서 내가 안 하는 거야.
I love how dark he is, bro.
사물함 같은 거 만드는 거 있어. 그런 거 만드는 거는 재밌어.
목공을 왜 안 하는 줄 알아? 조각칼로 하다가 손을 많이 베어.
I did woodworking in high school actually.
리노랑 이엔이가 같이 이제 승례로 뭐 커버할 생각은 있었었어. 어쨌든 보컬적으로 발라드적인 그런 음악을 또 둘이 되게 좋아하다 보니까.
근데 우리 둘이 하려다가 진짜 안 한 게 생각보다 많아. 승래도 옛날에
맞아 준비했었지.
준비했었다가
사실 커버를 하려 했었지.
그지 커버하려고 했었지.
근데 뭐 다시 하게 된다면은
무슨 노래 어떤 장르로 하고 싶어? 약간 나랑 너랑 할 수 있는 그런.
나는 커버 말고 뭔가 곡을 써서 해보고
곡을
싶어.
쓰는 것도 좋지. 내 머릿속에 곡 주제는 이미 수십 가지야. 근데 그게 가사로 안 나오네.
원래 그런 거야. 나도 주제는
지금
너무 많아.
주제 이거 되게
I'm
많아.
actually curious. I wonder how common is it for like the members outside of the producing team, outside of Three Racha, to write songs. Like I'm sure they've written songs. But based on a lot of what I've seen, like when they're talking about songs, it's always like Chan wrote it or Han wrote it or Changbin wrote or Changbin wrote it. So I'm curious how often the other members get the opportunity to write the lyrics and write the music. It's just curious about that.
분노, 슬픔, 애정, 우정, 막 이런 막 사랑, 슬픔 이런 다 있어. 그런 주제 다 있어. 안 나오네?
나는 솔직히 말하면은 그 약간 탑라인 쓰는 거보다는 뭔가 가사 쓰는 게 좀 더 편하다 할까? 건어웨이 하면서 느꼈지만.
Wait. Top lining? What the fuck does that mean? I'm gonna Google it. Top lining. It's just singing. Okay, it's like the melody. Okay. I've never heard of that term somehow.
진짜 별 생각 없이 쓴 게 되게 잘 나올 때가 많더라고. 맞아, 뭔가 가사는 슬슬 써지는데 내가 진짜 탑라인은 진짜 잘 안 써지더라.
나는 탑라인은 되게 잘 나와. 되게 많이 나와 뭐가 되게 많이 나오는데 가사를 써야 되는데 그 가사가 너무 유치하거나 아니면은 너무 일차원적이거나 그래서 제정신 아닐 때 써야 돼 가사. 그래서 내가 그때
그게 맞는 거 같긴 해.
최근에 가사 쓴 게 어디서 썼냐면은 밤새고 차 안에서 스케줄 데이
I think generally that's true for any creative endeavor. Being able to write something, right? Or create something, when you focus too much energy into it and you're like, this must be this and this must be good and this is perfect, this must be perfect, then you really get a flat result. That's what I found. Because I write like fiction, fantasy and sci-fi stuff, right? And when I'm writing and I'm like, these themes need to be perfect and this needs to be perfect and this needs to all work out, it usually turns out shit. But then when I'm just like listening to the vibe really of the story and just feeling it, usually I get a better result. And obviously it works differently because there's certain type of creators that the ones that are more planned and more focused, they can do better in that way. And then people that are more spontaneous and more kind of like instinct based like me do better in that way. But yeah, I agree with the idea of like kind of just feeling it out, you get a better result. As opposed to in your head being like, this needs to be perfect. Because when you go, this needs to be perfect, it kind of has almost an artificialness to it in a way. Like the feeling of it feels artificial. I don't know, it's hard to explain if you haven't really written like a song or a story or something like to that effect or created something in that way. It's kind of hard to explain it to someone, but I get what they're saying exactly.
얘기하면서
뭔지 알아. 그 가사 뭔지 알아. 근데 그거 되게 잘 나왔어. 되게 잘 쳤어. 나 그거 오씨 뭐야 이랬어. 가사 되게 잘 쓴다 이러면서.
약간 사람이 명상하는 이유도 이런 거 비슷한 것 같아. 머리를 비워야 돼.
맞아. 그리고 또 그런 거는 진짜 생각날 때 그냥 바로바로 써야 돼.
맞아. 그냥 머릿속에 나온 이 주제를 좀 풀어서 이렇게 메모장에 계속 적어놔야 돼.
맞아. 맞아.
야, 우리 되게 아티스트 같아. 미쳤어 이거.
I love how like we sound like artists, but they're like one of the, they're so famous.
나 17살 때였구나.
소름 돋아.
Oh my god.
5년이라는 시간이 지났는데 만약에 이제 10년
Wait, I missed what they just said.
이거 만난 지 얼마나 됐지? 나 20살 때 만났으니까 5년 됐네. 와, 5년 됐어.
나 17살 때였구나.
소름 돋아.
Oh my god.
5년이라는 시간이 지났는데 만약에 이제
So there's 3 years between them.
그러니까 너는 32, 난 노코멘트 할게.
Wait, what?
뒤야. 그러니까 너는 32, 난 노코멘트 할게.
35.
그때 이제
Nah, Ian is savage. Lino's like, oh, just don't worry about how old I am. He's like, oh, I'm 35 by the way. You'll be 35 years old. Nah, he's so savage. I love it. I actually realized that. Obviously I haven't seen Lino too much with every member, but like we've seen small snippets. I feel like Ian's the only one that really bites back, just based on what I've seen when it comes to Lino, you know, being a bit of a smarter sometimes. Like Ian will not hesitate to bite back, which I love to see.
하고 있을지.
그러게.
35 리노한테 한마디 해보시지.
우리 리노 형이 그때도 관절이 건강해서 춤을 정말 잘 췄으면 좋겠다. 지금처럼 항상 한결같았으면 좋겠어 형이.
나도 내 관절이 한결같았으면 좋겠다. 그래,
They will not.
32.
I'm gonna tell you now, they will not. Because at 27, sometimes you wake up and your shoulders fucked for no reason. So at 35, I'm telling you, you will wake up and your back just is fucked for no reason somehow. So, though to be fair, I feel like he has a longer lifespan just because he is always active. He's dancing all the time. So, you know, but still, it will start coming in slowly.
2살 아직 어리네. 그 내 주변에 30 넘은 형들 얘기 들어보면은 마음 많은 자기네들이 20대래. 그러니까 우리도 그때도 우리가 30살이 넘어도 아마 마음 많은 22, 23, 이 10년 전 그대로지 않을까 싶다. 그래, 우리 눈 감고 편안하게 자연사하자. 오래 살자.
아니 근데 진짜 우리가 만약에 10년 뒤에도 이렇게 춤을 출 수 있을까?
Just left my boy hanging. He was there for so long as well, and Ian just would not even glance at him. That's hilarious.
아 미안.
우리 10년 뒤에 지금 같은 안무들은 못 하겠지.
그치.
10년 뒤에는 할 수도 있을 거야. 아니 만약에 50살 때는 못 하겠지. 근데 좀 그때 맞는 퍼포먼스를 하지 않을까? 우리 스테이들하고 약속했잖아. 휠체어 타고 공연장에서 만나기로. 자,
그래.
마무리만 하자.
그래.
마무리 사진 찍어야 된대. 자, 하나, 둘, 셋.
Yeah, see,
스케줄은
this is what I'm talking about. When it comes to being reserved, right? This, like, there was some, like, small, serious moments here and there, but generally, if we look at Hyunjin and Felix's episode, and then Changbin and Sungmin's episode, they're much more open, expressive, and, you know, willing to kind of open themselves up, basically, than these guys. And not to say this is a bad episode or anything, but I think it's really good to illustrate who they are as people. So when I call Lino and Ian reserved, this is what I mean by when I say they're reserved, because they are in this way. But yeah, I really like this episode because it does really illustrate first how other people view this duo, and then how they view themselves, and how they illustrate like express their emotions and their opinions and stuff like that. And I like that we got a bit more of an episode with kind of some levity, because the previous two was a lot of like serious, like groundbreaking, deep shit. And it's interesting to see that not everyone is really willing to express themselves in ways that others are. Like if I was to talk about generally who out of them are the most open, based on those three duos, I would say the most open out of the three of them were Changbin and Sungmin somehow, right? Which is something you don't expect. I think Felix and Hyunjin were also very open, but generally I feel like Changbin was very, I don't want to say critical of himself, but we're very aware of where he's lacking sometimes, where he says, I can't express myself as well, and it's something I want to get better at. And like I think he's very self-aware of, you know, any issues that he might have in that department, and he's like, I know this is something that I need to do more of. So I think when it comes to emotional maturity out of the six of them, I would say Changbin showed the most emotional maturity as a person. Not to say that others were emotionally immature or anything, but just he was the most mature, I feel like, in understanding who he is, and the areas that he's lacking in, and so on and so forth. That's just what I've found. I really liked it. This was fun. This was very fun. And I'm excited to get into the next episode with Chan and Han. I feel like that's going to be really fun. That's going to be a really fun episode. But yeah, anyway, thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, be sure to do that. And thank you, as always, for being a patron to my Patreon. Goodbye.